Hello growers, I'm Dr. MJ Coco from cocoforcannabis.com. I have an update video for you this time. The latest, updated version of the Mars Hydro FC6500. I originally tested the first version of the FC6500 2 years ago in January 2021. There's been a lot of updates since then. Most importantly, the power draw has been increased significantly. The version I tested in 2021 pulled 621 watts from the wall. This version for 2023 pulls 710 watts. It's time for me to update my tests and review. So I got the latest version and ran several tests. First, I replicated the testing parameters from my official 5x5 PAR test with the first FC6500 back in 2021 to directly compare the old and new models. Then I set up and ran new official 5x5 PAR and ePAR tests for this more powerful version of the FC6500. The 5x5 test results are impressive, but I also ran several tests in a 4x4 area. At full power, it has great distribution of light, suitable for growers with supplemental carbon dioxide. For growers without supplemental carbon dioxide in a 4x4 tent, I made phenomenal PAR and ePAR maps with this new FC6500 at only about 80% power. I'll break down all of these maps and testing data and give my complete review to the latest 2023 version of the Mars Hydro FC6500. If you're watching during the live premiere, you could win the light that I tested in the chat. If you missed the premiere, be sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the next one. The box hasn't changed much. Let's look inside. Looks about the same. The FC6500 is still a foldable 8-bar LED. The power cord is down here. These are the brackets to mount the driver to the top of the LED bars. Here's a hanging kit and an RJ cable to daisy chain, and a couple clips, and then the user manual. Let me get the driver. Last year, in 2021, Mars Hydro started using drivers with their own branding. They're manufactured by LG LED Solutions. I'll finish unpacking the fixture itself, and I'll unfold the new Mars Hydro FC6500. Let's give it a closer look. The FC series from Mars Hydro features the industry-leading Samsung LM301B diodes, along with the Osram 660nm diodes. There are 8 LED bars on a sleek aluminum frame with a nice hinge. For the most part, it looks the same. Let's look back at the original FC6500 from 2021. The frame, the hinge, and the arrangement of the 8 LED bars all look the same. The original model also featured the Samsung LM301B diodes, but you can see they were arranged in 2 rows with even spacing down each bar. The arrangement of diodes has been updated. On the new 2023 version, you can see there are now 3 rows of diodes, and the spacing is not regular. There are more diodes towards the ends of each bar. Of course, the new model also has more power. I'm curious to see how it'll perform. The FC6500 comes with a hanging kit, but I'll use my 4 ratchet pulleys to set it up for the tests. I'll raise it up, plug it in, and turn it on. Let's check out the diodes. The updated FC6500 has a total of 2,688 diodes. That's 3.79 diodes per watt, or about 0.26 watts per diode. It's an excellent number of top-end diodes. Other fixtures that use the Samsung LM301Bs will scrimp on the number and then overpower them. However, Mars Hydro is using plenty, and that should result in excellent efficiency and performance. Like many grow lights, the FC6500 has a combination of 3000K and 5000K white diodes, along with the 660nm red diodes. If you're interested in learning more about why manufacturers use this mix of diodes, check out my recent video, The Science of Horticultural LEDs. While I wait for the diodes to warm up on the FC6500, let's go check out the published stats. This is the product page for the FC6500 on marshydro.com. You can see the list price is about $740, but we have a discount code, CCFC, which is always valid on marshydro.com. We'll have to look down here for some additional information. The power draw is listed at 730 watts. You can see they advertise both 4x4 and 5x5 coverage, so I'll test both. They claim to have measured a ppf of 2,079 micromoles, which translates to a photon efficacy of about 2.85 micromoles per joule. Let's take these data and run them through the Coco for Cannabis Grow Light calculator. This is our tool to help growers evaluate grow lights. It focuses on the most important metrics and allows you to make better comparisons and estimates. In the calculator on the right, I load all the fixtures that I test. I'll pull up the results from my test with the original FC6500 back in 2021. You can see that it only pulled 621 watts from the wall, but was able to deliver 1,477.7 micromoles of light to the canopy. That is an excellent usable PPE of 2.38 micromoles per watt. In the calculator on the left, I can enter the data that we got from the website. The published power draw is now 730 watts for the new version. With discount code CCFC, the cost will be about $718. And the PPF data that Mars quoted is from an in-house sphere test, so I'll select total PPF. They measured 2,079 micromoles in the sphere. The calculator predicts that 1,800 of those micromoles will successfully reach the canopy. That would give this newest FC6500 a photon efficacy of 2.47 micromoles per watt. We'll have to verify these numbers in the tests, but it looks like the new version is a considerable upgrade in terms of coverage and harvest. And 40 cents per micromole is a tremendous price. Let's see if it's too good to be true, or if these numbers hold up in the tests. First, I want to recreate the official test that I ran in 2021. This will give us one good way to see how the fixture has changed. So I have it in a 5x5 test area, and I hung it at 41.5 centimeters, or about 16.5 inches above the sensors. In 2021, this height produced a maximum ppfd of 1,000 micromoles per square meter. This new version has more power, so the maximum ppfd is likely to be too high at this hanging height, which I can already confirm is the case. Let's check out the PAR map from this test. There is a lot of light on this map, but my first reaction to seeing it is that the fixture is hung too low. There's a hot spot in the center, well above the 1,000 micromole per square meter limit that is generally safe for plants. And the corners are dipping below the 500 micromole per square meter threshold for efficient photosynthesis. Both of these will be improved by hanging the fixture a little higher and allowing the light to spread out from the center to the edges. I'll do that in a minute, but I ran it at this height because in 2021, this was the height of my official test for the first version of the Mars Hydro FC6500. Let's look at that map. Wow, that's a lot less light. I was impressed with this map when I made it, and it is a good map for a fixture that pulls about 620 watts. But the corner ppfd values are in the 300s, and the whole right edge is below the 500 micromole per square meter threshold. The 2023 model delivers a lot more light, which you can see in the difference between the maps, but it also pulls more power. It's still unclear which version is more efficient. Let's run the numbers. The original test from 2021 is on the left. The 2023 test is also at 41.5 centimeters, about 16.5 inches. That was the height that produced a maximum ppfd of 1,000 micromoles per square meter with the original model in 2021. With this updated model, the maximum ppfd shot up to 1,063 micromoles per square meter. Even more impressive, the average ppfd went up by over 90 micromoles to 748.9 micromoles per square meter. That means the new FC6500 delivered a total of 1,685 micromoles of usable light to the canopy. That's over 200 more than the original. But of course, it pulls more power. I measured a power draw of 710 watts during the 2023 tests, which gives the 2023 model a photon efficacy of 2.37 micromoles per watt. That's essentially a tie, which is actually impressive because it's hard to maintain efficiency while adding power and pushing more light out to the edges. Clearly, the 2023 version is an upgrade, but I still need to run the official 5x5 tests with it. That means I have to hang it a bit higher. I always run my official tests at whatever height delivers a maximum ppfd of 1,000 micromoles per square meter. With the upgraded FC6500, that height is 48 centimeters, about 19 inches above the sensor. Since the end of 2021, I've started running both PAR and ePAR tests. For the PAR tests, I use an Apogee SQ500 quantum sensor. It measures the PAR range from 400 to 700 nanometers. For the ePAR tests, I use an Apogee SQ610 sensor. it measures extended PAR, which is from 400 to 750 nanometers. That's the traditional PAR range plus far red. The latest research shows that far red light contributes to photosynthesis, but I still use the PAR sensor to set the hanging height. Let's check out these maps. First up, we have the PAR map. This looks like a good 5x5 PAR map. The maximum ppfd is 1,000 micromoles per square meter, and there's a huge area in the center above 700 micromoles per square meter. 3 of the corners are still below 500, but they're all very close to that threshold. The lowest ppfd is 492 micromoles per square meter. Let's look back on the map from the first test. Here, the FC6500 was hung about 2.5 inches lower. When we looked at this map the first time, I said it looked like it was hung too low. There's too much light in the middle of the map and not enough around the edges. The low corner is down at 432 micromoles per square meter. Raising the FC6500 2.5 inches allows the light to spread out more. The hot spot in the center dissipates, and the values around the edge of the map come up. If I had raised it even higher, the distribution would be even better, but the maximum ppfd and the usable ppf would go down. I also ran the ePAR test at this height, and you can see that in the ePAR map, all of the values go up. This is because ePAR includes all of the PAR light that we measured in the PAR test. It also includes far red light from 700 to 750 nanometers. The FC6500, like most grow lights, does not include diodes dedicated to far red. However, the full spectrum diodes put out a small portion of their energy in the far red wavelengths. Counting those photons means that the center values are now above 1,000 micromoles per square meter, but the maximum limit in the ePAR range is higher. The values around the edge are also higher. The far red light is typically well distributed, so all the corners in this map are above the 500 micromole per square meter threshold. Let's run the numbers on these new official PAR and ePAR tests for the 2023 model of the FC6500. The hanging height for these tests was 48 centimeters, about 19 inches. That height produced a maximum PAR ppfd of 1,000 micromoles per square meter. In the ePAR range, the maximum density was 1,040 micromoles per square meter. In the PAR test, the average ppfd was 737.7 micromoles per square meter. That converts to a usable ppf of 1,659.7 micromoles. In the ePAR range, the average density was 773.3 micromoles per square meter, which converts to a usable ppf of 1,740 micromoles. The power draw in both tests was 710 watts. In the PAR test, the FC6500 recorded a usable photon efficacy of 2.34 micromoles per watt, and in the ePAR range, it recorded a usable photon efficacy of 2.45 micromoles per watt. These are really impressive numbers for 5x5 tests. The FC6500 is certainly capable of fully lighting a 5x5 space, but I also want to run some tests in a 4x4 space. First, I'm running PAR and ePAR tests at full power, only 30 centimeters, about 12 inches above the sensors. This is going to be a lot of light everywhere. At full power in a 4x4 space, the FC6500 is going to put out too much light for plants, unless there's supplemental carbon dioxide. As I've mentioned, the maximum safe ppfd without supplemental carbon dioxide is about 1,000 micromoles per square meter. But if you increase the CO2, you can also increase the light, up to about 1,500 micromoles per square meter. Be aware that it's not possible to increase the CO2 in your tent if you run an exhaust fan. If you run an exhaust in a ventilated grow space, then you should not use any supplemental CO2 because it will not help. But if you have a sealed space, you have to add CO2, and you might as well elevate your ppms and your ppfds. Let's see what the FC6500 can do in that type of setup. First, we see the PAR map. Almost the entire map is in the red, above 1,000 micromoles per square meter, and it's a great distribution. The maximum ppfd is 1,257, and the lowest ppfd is 930 micromoles per square meter. The ePAR map brings the values even higher. The maximum density goes up to 1,313, and the lowest density in the ePAR range is 986 micromoles per square meter. You could get amazing production out of this setup. Let's run the numbers on these CO2 tests. The hanging height was 30 centimeters, about 12 inches above the sensors. The maximum ppfd was 1,257 micromoles per square meter in the PAR test, and the maximum ePAR density was 1,313 micromoles per square meter. In the PAR range, the average ppfd was 1,147.4 micromoles per square meter. That translates to a usable ppf of 1,652.3 micromoles. In the ePAR range, the average density was 1,202.8 micromoles per square meter, which is a usable ePPF of 1,732.1 micromoles. The power draw was 710 watts in both tests. That gives the FC6500 a PAR photon efficacy of 2.33 micromoles per watt and an ePAR photon efficacy of 2.44 micromoles per watt. Impressive numbers all the way around. But again, this is too much light for plants in ventilated grow spaces, so I'm going to run a final set of tests. I raised the FC6500 to 36 centimeters, about 14 inches, and I dimmed it down to about 80% on the dial setting. The power draw is 565 watts. Just off center, the hot spot was exactly 1,000 micromoles per square meter in the PAR range. I ran both a PAR test and an ePAR test. The FC6500 fits in this 4x4 space, but it's practically wall-to-wall. These are going to be great maps. Let's check them out. First up, we have the PAR map. You can see the hot spot at 1,000 micromoles per square meter. The distribution is a little uneven. I verified this was not a result of the test setup. Interestingly, the side where the power comes in is slightly lower than the opposite side. Still, this is an excellent PAR map. The entire area is in the maximum production zone. The lowest corner is 746 micromoles per square meter. The ePAR map boosts the numbers all across the map. You could grow some dense plants under this dense light. Let's run the numbers on these tests. The hanging height for these tests was 36 centimeters, about 14 inches. I dimmed the FC6500 to about 80%, so that the maximum ppfd in the PAR test was 1,000 micromoles per square meter. In the ePAR range, the maximum was 1,054 micromoles per square meter. The average ppfd in the PAR range was an impressive 918.3 micromoles per square meter. That converts to a usable ppf of 1,322.3 micromoles. In the ePAR range, the average density was 970.1 micromoles per square meter, which is a usable ppf of 1,396.9 micromoles. The power draw at 80% was only 565 watts, so the photon efficacy remains incredibly good, 2.34 micromoles per watt in the PAR range and 2.47 micromoles per watt in the ePAR range. You can review all the maps and test data. Check out the updated test report for the Mars Hydro FC6500 in the cocoforcannabis.com Grow Light Guide. Here are the main data from the official 5x5 ePAR test. You can see we rate it to cover up to 26.8 square feet, and you can harvest over 46 ounces. That's almost 3 pounds. Here you can find our discount code and shopping link. For the best deal, shop marshydro.com and use discount code CCFC. Your cost will be less than $718. That gives the new, updated Mars Hydro FC6500 a cost efficiency of only 41 cents per micromole. It's an excellent price. I'm impressed with the updates to the FC6500. With added power, I expected better PAR maps, but I also expected lower photon efficacies. However, it pulled 2.45 micromoles per watt in my official ePAR test. That ties my all-time record. So the winning number in the PAR Test Premier giveaway is 245. Congrats to whoever guessed the closest number. And if you missed the premiere, be sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the next one. Below the test data and the gross space calculator, you'll find my written review. The original FC6500 impressed me 2 years ago, but this updated version is significantly better. They increase the power without lowering the efficiency. In both 4x4 and 5x5 tests, the new FC6500 gets better than 2.4 micromoles per watt in the ePAR range. Like all Mars Hydro fixtures, the FC6500 comes with a continuously variable dimmer. I ran a dimming test in the 5x5 test area at 48 centimeters, 19 inches. As you can see, the fixture dimmed more than expected based on the apparent dimmer setting. However, the relationship between the power draw and the PPFD and ePPFD are as expected. For accurate dimming, you should measure the power draw and not just depend on the dial position. Finally, I measured the surface temperatures. Surface temperatures are important because they can affect the efficiency and longevity of the fixture. However, surface temperatures are not directly related to the amount of heat that the light will contribute to a grow area. The FC6500 ran remarkably cool. The hottest temperature I measured on the LED bars was a mere 38.8 degrees Celsius, 101.8 degrees Fahrenheit. The driver was more typical at 53 degrees Celsius, 127.4 degrees Fahrenheit. Mars Hydro made some great improvements to the FC6500. It's now very capable of fully lighting a 5x5 grow space, and you can run it in a 4x4 space with supplemental carbon dioxide or dimmed to 80%. In both 4x4 and 5x5 spaces, the photon efficacies are among the industry leaders. At Coco for Cannabis, we always put the grower's interests first. Our goal is to provide impartial, science-based testing and reviews for home growers. You support our work when you use our codes to purchase grow lights. I'd like to thank Sean at Mars Hydro for sending me the updated FC6500 to test. And thank you for watching. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Turn on your notifications so you don't miss the next PAR Test Premier giveaway. And we're always doing grow light giveaways on the deals and discounts page at cocoforcannabis.com. Check it out. And while you're there, you can read our articles, chat with our community in the chat room, join our next grow challenge, or try your hand at the grow light calculator. Grow your own, but don't grow alone. Let's grow together. I'm Dr. MJ Coco, sending all of you grower love.